Hey, I'm going to talk right now about food because a lot of people are going to have some New Year's resolution. I'm going to eat less. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do more. Blah, 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 blah. Those sort of things. So I'm going to address this one directly. Now, normally, I've made little hints and questions about things before in other videos, but this one's going to be a little more focused. So, food. People ask me all the time, what kind of food should I eat? My answer is usually food that comes from nature. Meaning, if it's not a fruit or a vegetable or a meat product, if it doesn't run around on the ground or grow in the ground or swim in the ocean or anything like that, you shouldn't eat it. Okay? So things that are kind of in a box and are packaged up and have all of these, chemicals and additives and all these other things. If it's in a box or it's in a baggie or it's in a, comes in a vacuum sealed pouch or something like that, you probably shouldn't eat it. And the reasons for that are because our bodies don't know how to deal with that stuff. Our bodies can't deal with excess hormones and pesticides and rodenticides and fungicides and herbicides, and they certainly, and to a certain extent, we can deal with those things a little bit more because our body is, part of our system eliminates toxins. That's kind of one of the things that our body does. Our toxins are stored in our fat cells, by the way. So if you see someone who's really, really overweight and obese, typically their body is full of toxins. Typically. And them being fat is a good thing because it's keeping those toxins from entering their bloodstream and getting into their system and causing all sorts of wreck and all of this metabolic damage. However, the reason that they're so overweight is typically because they've had way too much sugar consumption. Way too much. And that's because it's too high of a load on the liver. The liver will take sugar and it breaks it down and it will convert it to glycogen, which is a sugar that can be stored in our muscles. It can also be stored in our liver, but we use it for exertion and certain, activities and things like that. And then, it will also produce glucose out of that, and the glucose will go to our brain. But the glycogen is a little bit different. So, you don't need a lot of sugar. And once you cross a certain threshold of sugar consumption, and when I say sugar, I mean carbohydrate in general. So it doesn't matter if it's starches and we're talking about tons and tons of rice or lots and lots of potatoes or tons and tons of sweet potatoes or just table sugar or genetically modified corn products and corn syrup and all sorts of stuff. Once we get over a certain level of sugar, the body can't deal with it anymore. And it just starts, increasing the storage in our fat cells and spreading them out because it's saying, oh, geez, I've got way too much sugar. What are we going to do with all this sugar? Well, we obviously loaded up on all of this sugar because we're starving. So since we're starving, we're going to have to load up on the sugar. We're going to have to slow everything down, slow down that metabolism. All right. We're also going to suspend the body's ability to heal itself for a little while. And we're going to shut down the immune system a little, and we're going to increase fat storage. Okay, and that's through all sorts of hormone, pathways, insulin, and insulin-like growth factors, and all sorts of stuff like that, which I'm not really going to get into because it's not important. Basically, what you need to know though is once you eat past a certain amount of sugar, you're going to get fat. Okay, and if you consistently eat that way, you're going to become diabetic because that's how our cells function. Most people think that the way that we are coded to be, the way that we're supposed to be, is determined. It's predetermined. It's not. It's not predetermined. Your cells will function according to whatever protein enzymes they have to make from the inside. That's what your DNA does. That's what that junk DNA that people talk about, that's what it does. It reforms and recalculates and makes the right DNA, RNA, sequences of things happening in order for the cell to react to what is on the outside of it, the membrane of the cell. If something comes down, so you got a sugar molecule comes down, the DNA starts spinning around, it figures out what it's going to do, and then it codes a protein that will take that sugar in and utilize it, and then it will change the function of that cell. If you do that over and over and over and over and over again, with sugar at least, you'll become a diabetic. Because you can only have so many cells convert that way. You can only have so much, before your body gets overloaded and your pancreas starts having problems and all sorts of other stuff happens. Your liver starts functioning, badly, and you get, because of excess fructose consumption, which is fruit. So people that are fruitarians have to be very, very careful. You're going to start getting a fatty liver. And your liver will produce, with excess fructose, it will produce little break-off, small, dense LDL cholesterols, and that's what gets stuck in your arteries. And it gets stuck on the wall, and then enough oxygen gets to it, and it oxidates it, and it puffs up, kind of like a popcorn kernel, and then it will break off and float into your system, and all of a sudden you have an aneurysm, you're having a stroke, you're having a heart attack, you're having whatever, because that little bit of cholesterol floating around has become something else. Now, when we're talking about cholesterol, that's cholesterol formed from excess carbohydrate consumption. That is not cholesterol from the food that you eat. There is no link whatsoever between cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, and serum cholesterol levels, which serum cholesterol level means the amount of cholesterol that's in your blood. Okay? If you eat a ton of cholesterol, like a bunch of egg yolks, your cholesterol levels, if you were to take a blood panel, would probably go down. And I know that sounds like it doesn't make any sense, but when your body is getting a certain type of food, it's going to burn that type of food. So if you're eating a lot of fat, your body's going to burn a lot of fat, as long as it's a good quality fat. If it's an omega-3, if it is a cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, I try to avoid vegetable oils as much as I can, but that one's okay. Cold pressed extra virgin coconut oil, excellent. Okay, people will say, oh, that's all saturated fat. Anyone who says that doesn't know what they're talking about. Our bodies can utilize saturated fat. What our bodies cannot utilize are partially hydrogenated vegetable oils or fully hydrogenated vegetable oils. That is a chemical process where they make the fat so it doesn't turn rancid. Okay, they add things to it. It's like genetically modifying the fat is what it's like doing. Okay, so if it says something like that, if it's cottonseed oil or rapeseed oil or soy oil or whatever, it's probably hydrogenated. Okay, so avoid those things. Sorry, I'm kind of on a tangent. I don't know exactly where I'm at. But basically, don't get too much sugar. Okay, cut the sugar down pretty significantly. It's okay to have, a piece of dark chocolate here and there. It's okay to, eat a little bit of fruit and things like that. But mostly stick with vegetables. They have a much lower glycemic load and glycemic index. They're not going to affect your blood sugar levels, which isn't going to affect your insulin nearly as much. All right. And steaming vegetables seems to help the most with breaking it down so that the fiber is not an issue. Your body can actually absorb the nutrients from that particular vegetable. Steamed vegetables and lean meats. And the reason I say lean meats is because not everyone has access to organic, grass-fed meats that are coming from a place where they're supposed to come from. Okay, most people are eating meats that have some sort of genetically modified food stuff in them because toxins get stored, like we said, in fat tissue. So avoid that. Avoid getting really, really fatty cuts of meat if they are not grass-fed and grass-finished and coming from a source that is natural for them. So wild-caught salmon, it doesn't matter how much fat it is. All the fats are omega-3s. Okay? They're going to be good for you. If it's a grass-fed, grass-finished, organic beef, then it doesn't matter how much fat's in it. The animal's eating what it's supposed to eat. It's going to convert proteins and fats in its system are going to be fine for you to consume. In fact, it's going to be really healthy for you to consume. So don't worry about the amount of fat in something like that, okay? But if you're just going to the store and you're just getting a whatever piece of meat, and you're like, oh, this is cheap, I can buy this, get it as lean as possible. As lean as possible, because those toxins will store in the fat tissue. And then supplement with extra fat in order to make sure that your body is utilizing fat correctly. And just buy a high quality fat. Buy a really high quality organic extra virgin coconut oil or something like that, cold pressed coconut oil. Do that, and then consume a lot of that with your meals, and then you'll be pretty solid when it comes to that sort of thing. So natural foods, eat foods that are natural. The reason you want to avoid foods that are unnatural is because your body can't process it. If you eat things like genetically modified foods, like genetically modified, or there's something genetically modified within the ingredient of that food, you're going to have to deal with all sorts of biological consequences that your body can't deal with because your body doesn't recognize it. If a protein comes in and your body can't code for it, like we were talking about with the way your cells function, it's going to get confused. It's going to start creating all sorts of problems. You're going to end up with cancer. You're going to become infertile. All right? People always talk about how hormone levels are going way down, testosterone levels are going way down, and younger and younger men and younger women are becoming infertile. That's because they're eating so many genetically modified foods. Your body can't deal with it. So if you ever want to have children ever, or you ever want to have something outside of yourself that you're focusing on, and you don't just want to deal with the fact that you're sick all the time and that you're getting cancer and it's exploding out of your face, you should probably not eat genetically modified foods. And I'll do a video tomorrow on what genetically modified foods are and why they are dangerous. I'm only going to do 2 videos tomorrow, but make sure, in fact, you know what? I'll do it today. I'll do another one today on genetically modified foods specifically, just to explain what they are, why they're dangerous, okay? But in general, if we're talking about food, eat food that is natural, that comes from nature, preferably organic. Get your food organic. If you're going to spend a bunch of money on stuff, don't spend a bunch of money on a bunch of entertainment and excess stuff. Spend it on your food, because your food is going to keep you healthy. It's something that you can actually do to improve your health on your own. You don't need other people to tell you what to do with that necessarily. Just get good food. That's the first thing. The second thing is figuring out what levels you should have for you, what amounts of food are good for you. Okay, some people need a lot more fat and protein in their diet than they do carbohydrates. Me, I'm one of those people. I have to consume lots and lots and lots of protein, and I try to get all my protein from animal sources, because it's natural. That's where protein comes from. Even in plants, the protein that might be in that plant is from a mycorrhizoforma, which is going to sound really technical, but it's that plant will eat the organs of any predators in its root structure, and it shoves those proteins up into the plant. So if you're eating plants, you're eating meat regardless. There's no such thing as someone who consumes any protein whatsoever who isn't consuming some sort of animal. So try and get your protein from animal sources. Try and get your carbohydrates from vegetative sources. And stick to things that are natural. Get natural foods, natural-based foods, and you will immediately improve your health. Immediately. But you will also increase the longevity of your system. Something else that you don't have to worry about too much, salt. Don't worry about salt consumption. Everyone tells you not to utilize salt. The salt that is in your bloodstream is the same salt that was in the ocean millions and millions of years ago. When you cry, it tastes salty. When you sweat, it's salty. When you bleed, it's salty, because every single cell in your body, it has a salt ion on the outside that shoves things in and out. Okay? Now, don't get a normal table salt like a Morton's or whatever like that that has a bunch of that says it's iodized and has all this other stuff going on in it, because it's full of anti-caking agents, things that are going to make you sick, things that cause Alzheimer's, dementia, rheumatoid arthritis, that cause all sorts of muscular imbalances and all sorts of stuff. Really, really bad stuff. Instead, get a really good, high quality sea salt, and feel free, salt everything. All right. As long as you are consuming enough fat and getting enough water, your body will be able to deal with any excess sodium fine. Okay? Because salt is just a bunch of minerals and your body needs it. All right? So drink more water, really clean, all right? Get a good filtration system and try and filter out the fluoride from your water and the heavy metals and things like that, and things that end up in the groundwater. Really bad stuff. Any chemicals, runoff or whatever, ends up in the water. Same with prescription medications, because people urinate them out into the toilet and that moves through the water system. You don't normally think about that, but it will, okay? So be really careful with that stuff. Get the chlorine, the fluoride out of your water, get the heavy metals out of your water, drink a lot of water, drink like half a gallon to a gallon a day of water, and your cells will all function properly. Everything will be fine. So water, good quality meat, good quality vegetation, and you can add some salt in there if you want to. It's fine. Okay? All right, so that's it for this one, and then I will go on in the next one and discuss what genetically modified foods are, so that you're in the know. All right, thanks.